I'd like to thank you all for coming out this evening. I think that it's wonderful that our community has such interest that they're willing to come out and meet those people that City Council has chosen to interview for the city manager's position. What I am going to do this evening is each one, I will introduce each one individually, and just with a very brief introduction, because I basically want them to tell you a little bit of something about themselves. And we'll give them 3 to 5 minutes to...
Mayor broke it again.
3 to 5 minutes to address the group, and then we'll introduce the next person. There are comment cards on this table right over here where you came in. We've got pens, because I'm sure a lot of you didn't think to bring one. We would love to have input from you all. We realize that the selection of this individual is important to all of us, and we'd like to have your input. So if you'll please be sure to do that before you leave. We're looking forward to getting your comments. So, gentlemen, are you ready? As I said, I'll introduce you one at a time, and then give you an opportunity to be able to just briefly share with the group here things that you think would be important for them to know about you. Our first applicant this evening is Mark Campbell. Mark most recently was the town manager for the city of Kremlin, Colorado, and that's where he currently resides. He was also the city administrator for the city of LaGrange, Missouri. So he's been in a wide range of positions. And prior to that, he worked in Montana, Ohio, and as I'm sure you'll be able to figure out, he hails from Ireland. So, Mark, I'm going to let you address the group.
Okay. I'm going to remain seated. Normally I would stand when I'm talking, since the microphone is down here. I'm going to remain seated. Thank you very much for coming out. And I appreciate the warm welcome that I've received from... One.
I think you broke the mic.
One. Can you hear me any better? I'll just be louder. Okay. Thank you once again for coming out this evening. It has been a pleasure meeting staff, board members, council members, and so the members of the general public here this evening. People are probably wondering what an Irish guy is trying to get the city manager job in Cortez for. You know, I have been a city manager in Kremlin for the last 5 years. I was a city administrator in LaGrange, Missouri, a small Mississippi River town with a gambling casino for 8.5 years previous to that. In my time there in Missouri, I got quite a number of grants for infrastructure projects. Most of them came from federal government entities, you know, which also applies to Colorado. In regards to that, that was building a wastewater treatment plant, fixing water lines, fixing sewer lines throughout that time, as well as fixing the roads and doing other things. I also had to deal with two presidentially declared disasters, one being a Mississippi River flood of 2008, and the other being a record snowfall in 2011. So I have a lot of experience in dealing with the federal government, especially in emergency situations, and to try and procure your tax monies back to the community that they were sent from. In Kremlin, the last 5 years I was able to work a little more on economic development, and we had 5 straight years of record sales tax just from doing small things, working with the business leaders for mom and pop businesses, putting in wayfaring signs, creating a friendly environment, and giving the main road through town what CDOT referred to as a road dat. In other words, we thinned down a 7-lane highway to being 2 lanes plus a turn lane, making it safe for people to park on the main street, also making it look lived in, and then the empty businesses started getting filled. With that, it was a lot easier to get things done. Sales increased. We were able to deal with rafting companies up there, since we have a lot of water, not so much down here. But there is a lot of water up there. Rafting companies we started to welcome. We did a comprehensive plan, and rather than stick it on the shelf, we actually followed that comprehensive plan, and also a downtown plan was incorporated within that comprehensive plan. Once again, thank you for your attention, and thank you for your warm welcome here to the city, for me, for the city of Cortez. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mark. Timothy Dodge is our next candidate, and most recently, Timothy worked as city manager for the city of Santa Rosa, New Mexico. He actually served in a number of positions in that community. Prior to that, he was the city manager in the city of Las Vegas. He's worked as an administrator in the Guadalupe County Health Council, and had his own private insurance business for a number of years as well. So, Welcome, Timothy.
Thank you, Mayor. And Mayor, thank you for inviting us to come here tonight. And, you know, most of all, I want to thank the community. You know, I think oftentimes as public servants, we forget to thank the constituents of the community. And really, it's you, the community that we work for as public servants. So, you know, I always want to remind people that we need to thank the citizens, because it's really your dollars that put us to work, and we work for you. So thank you, and thank you for coming out tonight. You know, Matt has done an excellent job of putting this together. Matt, thank you for inviting us to the community and organizing this. It's been very well organized. Rick Smith, thanks for the tour. Counselor, thank you for the tour. It was very enlightening. This community has a lot to offer. I'm impressed. And one of the things that impressed me the most about this community is just the civility that I see. Oftentimes, and with the way that the state of the nation is nowadays, you see in other communities, a lot of the values that have been lost in the way that people treat each other is not very civil. And that's one of the strengths that I see in this community. And as city managers, I think that that's what we should be focused on, is looking at the strengths of the community, the weaknesses of the community, and trying to find the opportunities that we have within those communities to move those communities forward. We're really coordinators, and that's the way I look at myself. I'm not here, I wouldn't come into this community to try to dictate the future of it. I would come in to help you craft that future of where you want to go. That's how I've always managed for the last 16 years. I too have constructed over millions of dollars worth of infrastructure projects. And today, you know, I'm kind of the one that once in a while I get kind of, I think the counselor and Rick, you know, they enjoyed my humor throughout the day. And they told me that I had an interview in front of a professional panel, and I got kind of nervous. Professional panel? And the first thing they asked me is, Tim, when you came to the city of Cortez, how did you prepare? And I said, well, the first thing I did is did everything my wife told me to. So, you know, with that, I want to introduce my wife that's here with me tonight, Marilyn. I got my daughter, Megan, and my granddaughter, Taryn, and she's the real boss. And I want to thank them for always offering support and being behind me. And I think with a great support system of your family, one can accomplish anything. And I see strong values in this community, and that's what attracts me. You all have a beautiful community, and I'd love to be a part of it. You know, as I was preparing for this day, I actually went through and I reviewed council meetings, I reviewed comments, I read the paper, and I remember Shane Hill, and I don't remember if it was in a video, but it was one of his departure statements that he made, either in the paper or in the video. He says, well, you know, I just hope you select a good city manager that's not going to come in and, excuse my language, but screw things up, because us city managers could do that. I was thinking about that, and they actually took me into the city manager's office, you know, and I opened the drawer of the city manager's desk, and Shane left 3 letters in there. And I actually read those 3 letters. And the first letter I read, I opened up the drawer and it said, you know, the first mistake you make, just blame it on the other city manager. So first mistake I made, I said, oh, that was Shane, that city manager, he didn't know what he was doing. He really did a bad job. You know, so then the second mistake came, and I was like, oh man, I think back what Shane said, I'm gonna go back. I got the second letter out of the drawer. The second letter said, blame the previous governing body. I was like, okay, you know that other mayor and council, Mayor, you know that other mayor and council that are here before you, they made all kinds of mistakes, you know. So then the third mistake came, and I was like, oh my God, I better go back and look at those letters. I opened up the drawer, and the letter said, write 3 letters. You know, I tend to have a sense of humor because, you know, if you enjoy your job, and, you know, obviously with the tenure that some of the employees in this organization have, you guys enjoy your job, you're having fun. Well, some of the departments are pretty rough on me today, but most of you guys are having fun. When I heard that Marty that applied for this, I was like, wow, you know, one of my colleagues from New Mexico applied for this job as well. You know, Marty's actually one of the best city managers in the state of New Mexico, so I just want to commend Marty for what I've seen him do over the years. You know, and I recognize that. Marty, way to go, buddy.
Likewise.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah. Mayor, council, community, thank you for your consideration. And if I'm given the opportunity, I promise I'll serve you the best that I possibly can. Thank you.
John Doherty. Now, John, would you please tell me if I have pronounced your last name correctly, because we have had many conversations about how that should be correctly pronounced.
It's correctly pronounced Doherty.
Doherty, okay.
But you were closer than most people, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, John's most recent position was with the city of Kingman, Arizona. Prior to that, he served as a senior municipal services consultant, and what that means is that he worked with clients to help develop and assist local governments in a variety of different areas, including things like economic development, tourism, grant writing, etc. He has a varied background in city administration, serving in communities of Wisconsin, Ohio, and Illinois. So it's my pleasure to introduce John.
Thank you, Mayor. Can everybody hear me? Because I can continually yell louder and louder if you'd like. I'm not very good at just talking. As Will Rogers said, I never learned a thing by talking, and I've always taken that to heart. I've tried to be a very good listener because I want to hear what issues you have, and I don't want to tell you what issues I have because you're already aware of those. I just, if hired for this position, I'll come in here and do the best I can, working with the staff. And the staff I've met today, I can tell that you've been a very lucky community because you've got a very good staff. Unfortunately, there's several of them planning on retiring in the very near future, and that's unfortunate, but that's also something that we're all going to go through in public service. As the mayor said, I've been in 5 communities in 4 different states, and I've been doing this a long time, and some of the things that don't show up in my resume anymore is I worked for a not-for-profit for 10 years, and that taught me that in the end, while this job's important, I worked for the American Red Cross and Blood Services, and when we would get calls, it was generally an emergency situation where people could die if I messed things up. And so that was the best training I could have ever had, because now I'm not going to kill anybody if I make a bad decision. It's just water off a duck's back, you move on, and you make a better decision next time. The other thing I want to tell you a little bit about my management style. My philosophy is to be open door. Anytime a resident wants to come in and talk to me, I would encourage that. I will be out in the community because I've always been very active in the community, and I will be there, and I know nobody gets too bashful and is not afraid to come up and give me an earful, and that's fine. I've gotten used to it in my 25 or 30 years in public service at this point. After my contract was not renewed in Kingman, and I would encourage any of you to Google that situation because the Standard newspaper covered it very well. There was nothing I did wrong. I had a drastic change on the council. They wanted to go a totally different direction, but when I left there, they had a 50% general fund balance, and I put $2 million in the budget for the council to play with as they wanted into contingency. That is something I'm very proud of. For 30 years I've been doing budgets, and I always remind the staff, as I was reminded when I started, we're messing with other people's money. And there isn't a person out here who wants to give us more money if they think it's going to be wasted. So I can guarantee you one of my priorities will be to spend that money as if it were my own. And I had a council member once, the council member and my wife sat there in front of me talking about how cheap I was. And in the end I said, cheap is a little harsh. I think I prefer frugal. And frugal means I will spend the money in the best way we possibly can, and so will the staff. You have a wonderful staff, and I was asked what I was going to do in the first 6 months. I hope the first 6 months is a getting to know the public and the staff and learning what things we can do better to provide services for this community. I've been here for a couple days now. I think it's a great community, but I also think you have some potential. As we talk with some of the staff and some of the citizens, nobody likes to see change. But if communities do not grow and change, they die on the vine. And you citizens did not buy your property to see it devalued. And so that is one of the things I'm very proud of. Every community I've been in has grown, and they have prospered. And frankly, they were always better off financially, fiscally, when I left than when I got there, because I was so fiscally conservative in doing and keeping a close eye on the citizens' dollars. I'm well aware, as I talked to Orly at lunch, the council has the roughest job in the city. Everybody says, I don't know how you can be city manager. It's such a tough job. No, the toughest job is sitting up here in this dais and making those votes, because I guarantee you, several times in the 2 to 4 years that they're on the council, they're going to make somebody very mad at their decisions. I only make the recommendations. So, you know, that's an escape I take is, I didn't take that vote. But that, you know, I have to admire the council members. When my contract was not renewed in Kingman, my wife told me that she would like to see me do something else. So I took December off, middle of January off, and finally I said to her, there's no better job in the world than to help the citizens and make communities better and keep them going forward. And so this is what I'm going to continue to do. She thinks I ought to retire earlier than what I plan on doing, but as I said to her, she's never liked her jobs. I've loved doing what I do, and I'd love to come to Cortez. I'd love to be your next city manager. I know Shane's got some big shoes to fill because I met him somewhere else, and he got that job and I didn't. So it would be kind of poetic justice if I fill in behind him here. And I want to thank you all for coming out. This is a great turnout, and it shows that the community really cares about what's going on, and that's the communities I want to work in. Thank you.
All right, our next applicant, some of you probably already know, is Bill Johnson. Bill is currently the director for our Public Works Department here in Cortez. He began in that position in 2014. Prior to that, he was a business owner of a company called Water for Life that was a Colorado-based company that specialized in management, construction, organization, and contract operation of utility systems. He has worked for the Southern Ute Indian tribe out of Ignacio as well. So, Bill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everybody. It's kind of different. I'm usually over at the staff table when I'm talking on the microphone. I'd like to say that you know, it's an honor to be up here among these esteemed gentlemen. They're experienced city managers. I've been in public service my whole adult life. It's a passion of mine, and you know, similarly to these gentlemen, I get a lot out of it. I think that it's a sacred obligation to provide core services for our communities, to uplift our team, our staff members, to make sure that they have all the tools that they need. And I would continue that perspective and that management style as the city manager. I said when I first had my first council out, it was the meeting we had together when we were introducing ourselves, that, you know, this place was here before me and it's going to be here after me. And I'm just going to try to do the best job I can to promote its growth, the success of the community, the success of the team, through training and personal involvement, and, you know, showing them that they have value and the perspective and opinion matters to me. My success is gauged by the success of the community, the businesses, and my team members. It's not about me, it's about the work, and I will apply all the things that I've learned over the course of my public service to this position. I've been here 4.5 years. I love this city. I like working with this. This is a great team to work with, and I think that I would do a really good job in having, for continuity's sake, with the transition we're going to be going through with our long-term employees retiring, making sure that, you know, the people that we replace these positions with make a good fit. You know, Cortez is a team, and they've worked together, we all worked together for a very long time, and making sure that the pieces fit well in that existing team is what's really important, and I think that I would do a good job in promoting that. Like I said, I'm very grateful to even be up here among these city managers, to be considered for this position, and I would bring to bear everything that I have learned over the course of my career to do a good job for the city, to be a facilitator for the team, as well as the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Marty Moore is our final applicant. Currently, Marty is the city manager at the city of Eunice, New Mexico. Prior to that, he did some private consulting in Tiburon, New Mexico, in the Water and Sanitation District. He has also served during his career in a number of other positions where he was either city or county manager or executive director. So I would like to welcome Marty this evening.
Thank you. And thank you for having me here. Just to let you know a little bit about me, I was born and raised down in southeast Arizona. And my brother worked on me for years, that lives in Socorro, lived there with his family, and he recruited me over to New Mexico. And I'm not going to lie to you, I love Eunice, New Mexico. And there was one thing that would draw me, I said it would draw me to consider other places, and I said, and that is the ability to be closer to family. And opportunities, I've been very selective and looked really carefully. And one of the things that I like about Cortez is that it has character and it has heart. That's something that really touched me, and it's something that drew me to come here. And when I got the opportunity to come up here and visit with all of you, and I got a chance to visit with the employees and department heads, got a chance to ride around with the mayor and the chief. Very gracious. One of the things I noticed was the pride that the employees take in their jobs here. Whether it's the airport, even though, you know, we'd love to have more, but taking what they have and making the most out of it. Or if it's the community center or the library or the parks or whatever it happens to be. If you could honestly take, I looked at and thought, could honestly take the traits that we find from the citizens of the community, where we're at, and compare it. It was such an amazing and astonishing comparison between Eunice and here in Cortez. If I'm fortunate enough to be here, I can tell you that we will definitely, and I say we, because my greatest champion is my wife. She's wonderful. And I miss her because she's down there preparing for the 4th of July and all those kinds of celebrations as the chamber director down in Eunice right now. And bringing the ideas and the passion and the ability to be able to handle things. I've been able to have the experience. Some would call it a tough experience, but I've had the experience of being able to go into communities that have had financially tough times and have to help them turn it around. Have to help get their budgets in order, have to help get their audits up to date and put together. Or having challenges battling with the state, whether it's over the revenues, the revenue sharing with the state and trying to make sure we're getting our fair share, or whether it's dealing with natural resource issues like fire or water or those kinds of things, putting together planning, working on the general plan for the community. Such an important thing to do, to build your vision, the vision that you have as the people here. And I say people here, not just, I'm saying talking to employees and all of you as citizens, because, you pay the taxes here, you pay, if you select me as the city manager, you're paying my salary. And it's my job to make sure that I take care of you. And if you need somebody to talk to about an issue or concern with the city, I expect that you should be able to come and see me. And if I'm not there, that I will follow up. If there's an issue, that it will be addressed and taken care of. If there's something I can't help you with, I'll try to find a way to make sure that you can. I think that being in local government for 25, 30 years or so teaches you a few things. And one of the things is it teaches is to remember, who I'm serving. And you choose me that I'm serving you, the community of Cortez. I'm serving you as the employees. I'm serving you as the mayor and the city council. And that's my job. And to make sure that I do that to the best of my ability means that I bring my experience to bear, but that I'm also willing to bring to bear, as has been discussed by the other candidates, the experience that those who are already here. I love to see and build on visions. In Eunice, when we got there, I got together with our mayor. We took a look at the improvements that we've been making. We said, you know what? I'll bet you we thought it was a long shot. So we put an application. Lo and behold, they picked Eunice as a national showcase city. A town of 3,000 people going up against places like Virginia Beach and stuff like that. And it's like, it's that can-do attitude. It's that feeling, it's that passion, that desire to be able to grab a hold and run with it. And at the same time, to remember the character. Our theme was our grandchildren's future. That was our theme. And that pointed to us as a current generation, to our children, and to the grandchildren who would come after. I think, honestly, one of the greatest things that I feel proud of are my sons, who helped us put together a memorial for our veterans. They're in Eunice. They didn't have anything. And the mayor decided he didn't want just a little thing here on the side of the road. He wanted a real live, bona fide memorial with granite, with the names engraved, honoring our men and women. And to be able to be a part of helping to make that happen. And I have a very strong feeling for our country. I have a very strong feeling for what you believe in and what's believed in here in Cortez, and I really want to be a part of it. Thank you.
Well, again, I'd like to thank you. We have until 7 o'clock. We have refreshments. Obviously, these gentlemen will be here to visit with you and answer questions that you have. Just a reminder that we would really like to have your input, and when you're finished, if you don't have a card, you can pick one up on the table next to the door, and please be sure to leave it when you go. Thank you so much again for coming. We appreciate your participation.
Good job. Good luck.